Today we'll be working in my workbook called Building Instructions for the Tabernacle, which is in Exodus 25 to 31. Now, if you recognize these scriptures, you realize this is what's called a geek book, Geet. That is, you'd have to really want to learn this in order to follow through in these instructions, but I've tried to make it as interesting as I can. In this book, Moses is up on the mountain of Sinai, and he is actually, this is his fourth ascent that he's come up on the mountain. He went up on Exodus 19, and then again on 19:8 through 11, and then again on Exodus 20:18 through 21. Those were all in books prior to this one. Now he has gone up to the mountain just before this book started, I believe, and this book uh, happens on the mountaintop. He never moves from the mountain, so he has gone up to the mountain, but he hasn't come down yet. And what we'll find out later is when he does come down, it's only Joshua that's still up on the mountain. Okay, he still has, just for reference, couple more ascents and descents on Mount Sinai. This is not the time that he's getting the tablets. This is the time he's getting the instructions. Okay. So looking at the table of contents, we have done the prelude, or it was just a short scripture passage, had to do with the offerings that people would bring to build the temple. And God specified exactly what those offerings would be that he needed in order to build the tabernacle, not the temple, the tabernacle. And so that's that little prelude. Then we've already done chapter 1, which was the instructions on building the items for inside the tabernacle. That would be the Ark of the Covenant, the table of showbread, and the golden lampstand. Now we're going into chapter 2, which is the instructions for building the items inside the courtyard. And this is Exodus 26:1 through 27:19. First item is the building instructions for the actual tabernacle itself. Now, the word tabernacle is used both for just the inner tent and for the whole thing. So the word is used interchangeably for those two things. That's why I could name my book The Building Instructions for the Tabernacle, even though it used the courtyard as well. So we're talking about the inner tent right now. Okay, Exodus 26:1. Make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of finely twisted linen and blue, purple, and scarlet yarn with cherubim woven into them by a skilled worker. All the curtains are to be the same size, 28 cubits long, which is 42 feet, 4 cubits wide, which is 6 feet. Join 5 of the curtains together and do the same with the other 5. Make loops of blue material along the edge of the end curtain in one set and do the same with the end curtain on the other set. Make 50 loops on one curtain and 50 loops on the end curtain of the other set, with the loops opposite each other. Then make 50 golden clasps and use them to fasten the curtains together so that the tabernacle is one unit. So we're basically making the first layer of curtains, and you make them in panels. Then you join 5 panels together, and then you join them together by loops. Anyway, we'll go into detail here, which will help us understand that. How many first curtains are made for the tabernacle? There are 10 linen curtains. Okay, so we first make the various panels, the 10 linen curtains. What are these curtains made from? They're made from finely twisted linen and blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. What is woven or embroidered into the curtains? Cherubim. Two cherubs, cherubim. What is the length and width of each curtain? The length of the curtain is 28 cubits long or 4 cubits wide. How many curtains are initially joined together? 5 and 5. So 2 sets of 5 curtains. Therefore, if each curtain is 6 feet wide, joining 5 sets of these curtains together would then make 2 sets of 5 curtains to be 30 feet wide, or 20 cubits. At the end of each curtain set is attached what? Set are loops of blue material. How many loops will be along the edge of each set of curtains? 50 loops are along the edge of each curtain set. What was attached to these blue loops of material? 50 gold clasps were attached to these 50 loops. So basically, they're going to be attached together with these clasps. Because you have to think about the fact that this whole thing is going to be moved constantly. So they're not going to use any nails. They're going to have a way for everything to be interconnected without nails. And so in this case, you have two 5 sets of curtains, 30 feet wide, 2 sets of curtains 30 feet wide, and then they attach together to make a 60 feet wide curtain by the clasps and the loops, but they probably be unclasped when they're traveling. Now the curtain is one unit fastened together in the middle. The middle attachment would then be unfastened when they need to move it. Together, the curtain would be 60 feet wide by 42 feet long and would be seen on both sides and on the ceiling of the tabernacle. This would have cherubim on the sides and on the ceiling of the tabernacle, just like the cherubim surrounding the throne in the heavenly temple. Because when we read about the temple and the cherubim there, they surround the throne. So this is kind of a symbolic of that. Make curtains of gold hair for the tent over the tabernacle, 11 altogether. All 11 curtains are to be the same size, 30 feet, 30 cubits long, which is 45 feet, 4 cubits wide, which is 6 feet. Join 5 of the curtains together into one set and another 6 in another set. Fold the 6th curtain double at the front of the tent. Make 50 loops along the edge of the end curtain in one set and also along the edge of the curtain in the other set. Then make 50 bronze clasps and put them in the loops to fasten the tent together as a unit. As for the additional length of the tent curtains, the half curtain that is left over is to hang down at the rear of the tabernacle. The tent curtains will be a cubit longer on both sides. What is left will hang over the sides of the tabernacle so as to cover it. Make for the tent a covering of ram skins dyed red, and over that a covering of the other durable leather. Okay, so let's see if we can make a little more sense out of that. Okay, the next set of curtains are made out of goat's hair. Goat's hair was dark, thick, and coarse, somewhat like felt. It was part of the protection of the linen curtains. Instead of 10 curtains like the linen curtains, there are now how many? 11, I believe. How long and wide were each curtain? Each curtain is 30 cubits long by 4 cubits wide. When they're joined together into 2 sets of curtains, how many on one side and how many on the other? 5 on one side and 6 on the other. In the picture, each layer is pulled back so you can see each layer, but in reality, each layer would come to the front of the tabernacle. What is to be done with the 6th or extra curtain? The 6th or extra goat hair curtain is to be doubled in the front of the tent. The linen curtain was 60 feet wide and the goat's hair curtain was 63 feet wide. But what was to be done with the extra amount of goat's hair curtain? And the half length of goat's hair curtain is to hang down at the rear of the tabernacle. The linen curtain was 60 feet wide. Let's see, I said that. Okay. Number 7, the linen curtain was 42 feet long. The goat's hair curtain is 45 feet long. Verse 13 tells us what happens to this extra length. What is the extra size for? The extra width of the goat's hair curtain is to hang over the previous curtain and protect it on the side. 8. Instead of gold clasps that the two sets of linen curtains were attached with, what were these goat's hair clasps made from? Bronze. Since it doesn't say, we assume the loops are made out of goat's hair cloth. Or it doesn't ever say, so just assume that. Then what is the third layer of curtain made out of? Ram's skin. Then the fourth layer of curtain is some durable leather. Many scholars say that this fourth layer was made out of badger, porpoise, or sea cow skins. Excuse me. Excuse me. Make upright frames of acacia wood for the tabernacle. Each frame is to be 10 cubits long, which is 15 feet, and a half cubit wide, which is 2 feet 3 inches, with two projections set parallel to each other. Make all the frames of the tabernacle in this way. Make 20 frames for the south side of the tabernacle, and make 40 silver bases to go under them, 2 bases for each frame, one under each projection. For the other side, the north side of the tabernacle, make 20 frames and 40 silver bases, 2 under each frame. Make 6 frames for the far end, that is the west end of the tabernacle, and make 2 frames for the corners at the far end. At these 2 corners, they must be double from the bottom all the way to the top and fitted in a single ring. Both shall be like that. So there'll be 8 frames and 16 silver bases, 2 under each frame. Okay? Let's see if we can make a little sense out of that one. What are the frames of the tabernacle built out of? Acacia wood. What was the size of each of the frame or board of wood? Each frame is 10 cubits long by cubit and a half wide. 2 projections set parallel to each other. There are no nails in this, as it needs to be able to be set up and taken down. Therefore, it was what we now call a tongue and groove fastening, each board interlocked with the other. How many frames for the south and also the north side of the tabernacle? There were 20 frames on the south and 20 frames on the north. And the north and south are actually the sides of it because it always faces east. So the sides are the long ones, and they're north and south. If each frame is a cubit and a half wide and there are 20 boards, what is the length of the tabernacle? And this would be 12 cubits wide, and that would also be 46 feet. How many frames for the west end or the far end of the tabernacle? For the far or west end, there are 6 frames plus 2 corner frames equaling 8 frames total. Notice the corner frames are almost double because they're for the front and for the sides. And of course, as I said, this means that it always faces east. If a frame is a cubit and a half wide and there are 8 frames for the west end, how wide is the tabernacle? Tabernacle is 12 cubits wide. What is made for the frames to stand on? Bases, silver bases. How many bases for each side? I think there's there are 2 bases for each frame and 20 frames, so 40 bases on each side. We don't know how high the silver bases are. Therefore, it appears to be that the tabernacle was 30 cubits long, or 46 feet, and 12 cubits wide, or 18.4 feet, and 10 cubits tall, which is 15 feet. Okay? Also make the bars. I don't know what that was. Also make the crossbars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames on one side of the tabernacle, and 5 for those on the other side, and 5 for the frames on the west and the far end of the tabernacle. The center crossbar is to extend from end to end at the middle of the frames. Overlay the frames with gold and make gold rings to hold the crossbars. Also overlay the crossbars with gold. What are the crossbars made out of and overlaid with? They're made out of acacia wood and overlaid with gold. How many crossbars for each and back of the tabernacle? 5 crossbars for the sides and back of the tabernacle. So it's the same amount of crossbars. We also have more on the frames themselves. Are they also overlaid with gold? Yes, the frames are overlaid with gold as well. The center crossbar was be at the center of the frames, or the middle of the frames, which is logical, of course. What fastener was to hold the crossbars in place with gold rings? So again, no nails, gold rings. Set up the tabernacle according to the plan shown you on the mountain. Make a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen with a cherubim woven into it by a skilled worker. Hang it with gold hooks on the 4 posts of acacia wood overlaid with gold and standing on the 4 several bases. Hang the curtain from the clasp and place the Ark of the Covenant law behind the curtain. The curtain would separate the holy place from the most holy place. Put the atonement cover on the Ark of the Covenant law in the most holy place. Place the table outside the curtain on the north side of the tabernacle and put the lampstand opposite on the south side. For the entrance to the tent, make a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen, the work of an embroiderer. Make gold hooks for this curtain and 5 posts of acacia wood overlaid with gold, and cast 5 bronze bases for them. So now God is putting everything written about already together. So notice again what God says. Set up the tabernacle according to the plan shown to you on the mountain. Again, proof that Moses got a visual of the tabernacle. Who was to make the back curtain of the blue, purple, scarlet with an embroidered cherubim on it? A skilled worker was to make the back ones, which of course we'll talk about later. More discussion of these skilled workers will happen in Exodus 31. The back curtain, also known as the veil, separates what from what? The holy place from the holiest of holies. What is behind the back curtain? It would be the Ark of the Covenant. Some notes about this back curtain or veil. This curtain was a barrier, and no priest could go beyond the veil into the most holy place except the high priest. He could only enter it once a year, and that was the Day of Atonement. In the temple, this veil was torn from top to bottom at the death of Moses. What was to be situated on the north side of the tabernacle? The table of showbread was situated on the north side of the tabernacle. What was situated on the south side of the tabernacle? The lampstand, which situated on the south side of the tabernacle. There's actually one other piece of furniture inside the tabernacle. It's the altar of incense, which will be described in Exodus 31 through 10 and is in front of the veil. These 3 pieces of furniture represented the 3 obligations of walking with God: prayer, which is the altar of incense, fellowship, which was the table, and to receive illumination, which was the lampstand. Does the curtain entrance of the tent have a cherubim embroidered on it? No, the curtain entrance will not have a cherubim on it. Instead of silver, the bases for the entrance were made out of bronze. Since bronze or brass must be made with a refining fire, it pictures purity and endurance through trial. The entrance to the tabernacle hung a symbolic foundation of what Jesus did for us, and that's from Pastor David Guzek. And then section 2, this is now the altar for burnt offering. Just remember, it's the things inside the courtyard. So now we do that. Build an altar of acacia wood, 3 cubits high. It is to be square, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. Make a horn at each of the 4 corners so that the horns in the altar are of one piece, and overlay the altar with bronze. Make all its utensils of bronze, its pots to remove ashes, its shovels and sprinkling bowls, meat forks, and fire pans. Make a grating for it, a bronze network, and make a bronze ring at each of the four corners of the network. Put it under the ledge of the altar so that it is halfway up the altar. Make poles of acacia wood for the altar and overlay them with bronze. The poles are to be inserted into the ring so they'll be on two sides of the altar when it's carried. Make an altar hollow out of boards. It is to be made just as you were shown on the mountain. Okay, questions here. What is this altar, also known as a brazen altar, made out of and overlaid with? Made out of acacia wood and overlaid with bronze or brass. Due to being overlaid with bronze, it could survive high temperatures. What is its height, width, and length in feet? The height of the altar is 4.5 feet, the width is 5 feet, and the length is 5 feet. What is to be at each of the corners? Horns. The utensils that are to be used with this altar are made out of what? Bronze. What are the utensils? Well, the utensils are ashes, shovels, sprinkling bowls, meat forks, and fire pans. What is to go inside the altar about halfway up the interior of the altar is a grate. The rings of the grating must stick out of the sides because what are they used for? Being able to, because the poles to carry the altar go through the rings. What are the carrying poles made out of and overlaid with? They're made out of acacia wood and overlaid with bronze. Although the altar sides originally had a smooth surface, in number 16, 39 through 40, this changed. Number 16, 39 through 40. So Eleazar the priest collected the bronze censers brought by those who had been burned to death, and he had them hammered out to overlay the altar, as the Lord directed him through Moses. This was to remind the Israelites that no one except a descendant of Aaron should come to burn incense before the Lord, or he would become like Korah and his followers. So it was smooth surface, but later had these things embedded on it. Okay. And then we're talking about the building instructions for the courtyard itself. Make a courtyard for the tabernacle. The south side shall be 100 feet long, 100 cubits long, and is to have curtains of finely twisted linen, with 20 posts and 20 bronze bases, and with silver hooks and bands on the posts. The north side shall also be 100 cubits long, is to have curtains, with 20 posts and 20 bronze bases, and with silver hooks and bands on the posts. The west end of the courtyard shall be 50 cubits wide, and have curtains with 10 posts and 10 bases. On the east end, toward the sunrise, the courtyard shall also be 50 cubits wide. Curtains 15 cubits long are to be on one side of the entrance with 3 posts and 3 bases, and the curtains 15 cubits long are to be on the other side with 3 posts and 3 bases. For the entrance to the courtyard, provide a curtain 20 cubits long of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen, the work of an embroiderer, with 4 posts and 4 bases. All the posts around the courtyard are to have silver bands and hooks and bronze bases. The courtyard shall be 100 cubits long and 50 cubits wide, with curtains of finely twisted linen, 5 cubits high, and with bronze bases. All the other articles used in the service of the tabernacle, whatever their function, including all the tent pegs for it and those for the courtyard, are to be made of bronze. Okay. How long is the south and north sides of the courtyard in feet? The south and north sides of the courtyard are 150 feet. How wide are the east and west sides of the courtyard? 75 feet. What is the courtyard walls made out of? Finely twisted linen with posts, bases, silver hooks, and bands. How long is the walls of the courtyard in feet or high? The height of the courtyard walls are 22 feet. How many posts and bronze bases in the north and south courtyard walls? The number of posts and bronze bases in the north and south walls of the courtyard are 20 posts and 20 bronze bases. How many posts and bases in the west courtyard walls? 10 posts and 10 bases. The posts or pillars were also made out of bronze. What are the hooks and bands of each post made out of? They're made out of silver. Is the entrance on the north, south, east, or west side of the courtyard? The east side. On each side of the entrance, how long are the entrance curtains? They're 22 feet long each. However, the entrance curtain itself is different than the walls and the side curtains to the entrance. How is it different? Entrance curtain is to be made out of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen. If not already designated, all other articles like tent pegs are to be made out of bronze. The courtyard had many purposes. It was a barrier to prevent unlawful approach. It was a protection against all wild and domestic animals. It was a boundary line between the world and the holy presence of God. And with its single gate, it was a way to approach God. And that's from Khazar. So we come finally to the table of, the puzzle at the end of the chapter. See if we can answer this here. The wood used for the tabernacle is acacia wood all the way through. 4, the interior curtains were made of finely twisted linen and blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. The creature that was to be designed into the inner curtain was cherubim. The second curtain over the first curtain was made out of goat hair. What direction did the tabernacle always face? East. 1 down. Bible scholars believe the fourth curtain over the first 3 was made out of badger, porpoise, or sea cow skins. The third curtain over the first 2 curtains was made out of ram skins, dyed red. Inside the most holy place was the Ark of the Covenant. Instead of a gold overlay, the altar's wood was overlaid with bronze. The acacia wood used for the tabernacle was overlaid with gold. Okay, so that's the end of this chapter. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're a geek like me, you probably did. Talk to you later.